Yeah, fine. Okay. Hey everyone, welcome back to the NWSL Rewind here on She Talks Ball. Now, finally, the NWSL is underway. Romel, it's been a long time that we've been building this up. We've been waiting for a big off season, and finally, it's here. How was your weekend? I mean, did you get to watching all the games? How was it?
Oh, this was like seriously incredible. And I did miss the NC and the Orlando game
Mhm.
because it was trying to juggle two completely mad times. And I eventually ended up missing both of them. But the first night was incredible. Oh my God. So, yeah, super excited to see what the season has in store for us.
Yeah, actually, likewise, I missed those two games as well. It obviously just testament to what bad timing it is for us across the globe here. But for everyone listening, we're going to be taking you through the first four matches on the opening weekend of this NWSL Challenge Cup 2021. You may have watched it, you may have just caught glimpses on social media, highlights. There was a lot to talk about on and off the field as well. So before we get into the matches, let's quickly pick on a couple of fun things that happened this weekend, or something we appreciate, something we like that happened. Romel, starting off with you, outside of the field, what do you like that took place?
For me, the absolute highlight has to be the Louisville celebration. I mean, that whole kit design, that sort of glow in the dark jerseys that like lit up when the lights go dim and the UV lights came on.
Yeah.
I think that is phenomenal. What entrance to the NWSL. I just love that after. I'm so looking forward to seeing Louisville play at home now after that. So yeah, what about
Absolutely.
you?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That you've taken my talking point. So that's a great start to this conversation. But no, that was and what an entrance into the league. I thought they'd be a bit overwhelmed by being the newbie and being having all these teams, play in this high intensity challenge cup before. But they obviously put on a really good show, which we'll get to. But that celebration and that entire thought of the design and the lights going dim and their jersey lighting up, it was really cool. But if I pick if another thing, since you've taken this, it was just this morning, in fact, that I was looking at all the teams' YouTube channels to find some press conferences and some player reactions, match reactions, and no YouTube channel is active except for Portland Thorns. So here's a quick appreciation to their YouTube channel. I could actually get to see Megan Klingenberg and Rocky Rodriguez talk about the match, about the thoughts, because that match, which we'll get to, was I mean, a crazy match just from the beginning right till the end. So it was nice to hear the player. And I think anyone who watches sports likes to hear what the players have to say. It shows you their mentality and mindset. So it was nice to see that on the YouTube channel. I'm hoping some other teams can get that up because we couldn't, at least I couldn't catch any of their post-match press conferences. But so that is my highlight of the weekend. It was just the fact that we could hear the players. But without further ado, Romel, let's get into the matches. We'll start off with the Houston versus Chicago fixture, which obviously is a rematch of last year's final. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah, I think very quickly, what we saw there was probably the best example of two teams that haven't played in a long while, and then also facing sort of losses with the roster. A whole bunch of players who weren't available for this match, and all it boiled down to was something very cagey. I think Chicago did have a lot better chances, but overall, I think the score was pretty fair. There could have just been like someone with a little more incisiveness on both sides that could have like gained 3 points for each of them, and that's what you saw in terms of how their rosters are being set up. Just having these players go out on international duty meant that they were really digging deep, and at the end of the day, it was like a really cagey match that I wouldn't put it down as boring, but I would probably hope for a little more softness, a little more excitement down the stretch. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, no, likewise, absolutely. I think there were big expectations for this match, being the opener, being the rematch of the final. But this time, as you mentioned, the absence of the international players, not just Americans, but everybody else, even English and whatnot. That really, I think, the teams had to cope with that very suddenly. And we had a balanced match, you could say. I mean, looking at the scoreline as well, both goalkeepers were the second choice goalkeepers of the team. I think Alyssa Nair and Jane Campbell were both on international duty. So that was an interesting test right out of the gate for both the number two goalies on either side. Both kept clean sheets, you could say. But yeah, other than that, I think the match was not up to expectations. But that is also because, people were saying rusty and it's the first match back. You got to give them a weekend to settle down and things like that. So overall, I think fair assessment from your end as well on how the match took place. It was cagey, it was scrappy, and really just a shared result at the end of the day. And I think they're just gonna take that. They're gonna say, okay, at least we didn't lose. So I guess that's a good enough start to your campaign in the Challenge Cup, and then definitely just build on from here. All right, my player for the match. I think I'd have to say it's the Houston goalie, Lindsay Harris, just because it's not easy to suddenly come out of nowhere, get in goal. Chicago do have good strikers. They continue to put pressure on goal as well, and she really held her ground. And just for like a performance in the Challenge Cup, intensity is high, everything is high. To get there and maintain your ground, filling in Jane Campbell's boots anyways is pretty hard. So I think for that reason it would be Lindsay Harris. What about you?
I think it would be Sarah Gordon again.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I mean, I did pick her overall for Chicago to also shine the season, but she really showed what she brings to the team. She was really strong with defense to begin with, and then eventually during the latter stages of the match, you saw that Dave sort of just gave her license to bomb ahead, and the next thing you know, she was like, putting in crosses into the box and stuff. And so it was like a really solid performance. She's truly showing a lot of leadership on this. So I can just like think he was like the highlight of the match.
Yeah, and I guess since you mentioned Sarah Gordon, we should also bring this up that there was obviously like Houston have found themselves at the end of another controversy when she put out a tweet saying that she was not allowed to meet her family at the end of the match, while some people were, and she was told that it was COVID restrictions and whatnot. I haven't gone deep into it, but I've seen the statements that Houston have put out, and they're just not acceptable, in my opinion. What are your quick thoughts on it before we move on?
Yeah, I think the update is that they just put out another statement today, apologizing for everything, including the last statement that they put out. So I think that's I would say a good call from them.
Yep.
They definitely stepped up and admitted that they messed up there. But yeah, I think it was really shocking, and I think one of the from what I've heard from the league, I think the one main reason that Houston has finally taken cognizance of what has happened is also that the commissioner Lisa Baird was witness to what actually happened, and she could testify. She basically spoke to both the teams, and that is what has now changed. Houston's stance on it as well. So props to her for actually standing up for the player. But yeah, it was horrific that we had this happen in the first game of the season, and equally disappointing to see that the first reaction from Houston was to really not get the point itself. So yeah, and what was unfortunate also is that as we go through the matches, we will also realize that there were two more incidents that did happen uh, that have like a racial bias to them, which is really, really unfortunate. And I think it was a good eye opener for people and the fans to kind of, especially given the fact the league has now taken such a strong stance with BLM and the players kneeling before matches. I think it definitely means that we need to be taking this a bit more seriously. And yeah, I'm really thankful to the players who did stand up, and make this like into an issue and have this resolved. So, yeah, that's what we have.
Yep, that's what we have. And on that note, let's move on to the second match of the opening night. It was Portland Thorns at Providence Park versus Kansas City, my team. I did say that they would break my heart. I think they did to some extent in this match, but it's too early to say anything. Romel, let's hear your thoughts first on this match. Probably the highlight match of the weekend when you look at just the action that took place in the match. Go for it.
Yeah, I think you're right. This was the highlight match of the weekend for me. And this actually showcased everything, the build up, the hype, and of course, what I was really happy to see was the old Thorns and Casey rivalry did not miss a beat there, and you it all over the pitch. They were going for it. Both of them, really wanted this win, and I think it was just a little bit of quality from the Portland midfield that made the difference here. Because when the Thorns pushed and made that difference in the midfield, I think what Casey missed the beat on was the fact that they did try and react to that. And unfortunately, in trying to react to that, what we saw was uh, two really cool goals that actually came in from the flanks. Uh, you know, so I think overall, uh, this is probably a great showcase of what passion and skills for a league can be, and at what standard we're looking at. So, yeah, this was really exciting. And at the end, I think Casey is nearly there. They just need a few more components to just make them a like a good contender for like top. A fair result at the end with
Mhm.
Portland taking points. But yeah, I think Casey was nearly there.
Yeah, no, Portland obviously won 2-1 Kansas. It was, I think, a story of two Rodriguez scoring their goals and then Tyler Lucy being the differentiator at the match. But obviously, it didn't look like the first match for either team. They both were very, very strong, very fierce, very competitive. They looked on top of their game. They very much were. When you look at Portland, how their set pieces really worked out and how the constant pressure from the flanks, as you've mentioned. And Kansas City obviously have always been just there. And as you mentioned, I think just more clarity in the midfield, a little more dominance there would have helped their case. But yeah, possession wise, I think it was pretty much even. I think Portland 52 and Kansas 48, if I'm not wrong. And you see really how intense this match was and how competitive it was because there were 3 yellow cards and there were 3 red cards. If you include Mark Parsons, it was 4 red cards. So the fact is that it was just a bizarre match towards the end. Romel, just a quick word on the refereeing because now even I was watching again Megan Klingberg's press conference and she was saying that we're world class athletes and we're just tired of getting everything that is not world class because we're the best and we expect the best facilities, investment, everything around us. What was your thought on the refereeing of that match?
Oh, absolutely. I think glad you brought that up. Uh, we saw Kasky referee the match, right? And it's not been the first match that there have been serious issues with some decisions or even the lack of decisions in a match that he's been in the center of. But I don't want to single her out. I think it's a definite lack in terms of resources as well as just talent when it comes to the referees in the pool right now. So that is something that the referee, I think it's the ref pro that needs to look at and definitely make sure that they are up to standard because honestly this can't go on. And it was true, she did lose the match, and which is why it really went into something. And uh, at the end of the day, it's scary. There was also a point that where Charlie should have been sent off for that attempt. I mean, it's fair. A player is allowed to go in and try and get the ball, especially in the box. But going in studs up is just not done, and that should have been a straight red.
Yeah.
So so many missed calls on that, and which is why I think we just lost control of the match, and it sort of devolved into what we eventually saw.
Yeah, I mean, Oprah has this famous thing of saying, "You get a card, you get a card." This referee was just, "You get a card, you get a card, you get a yellow card, red card." It was all there, But absolutely, there has to be. I think because she let some calls go, that's why towards the end it just got out of hand, and she was like, "This might look like a call, so I'm going to just give them a card because that's just the only way she can maintain her authority and I guess have some control." But yeah, that has to be looked at. I'm sure she's also going to go back and look at that and figure out how to improve on that. But that ended 2-1 to Portland. So the first match was 0-all. This was Portland first win of the season. I think the first win for the NWSL as a season. So Romel, your player pick from this match.
Well, I think for me, there were so many that just like stepped up.
Yeah.
But the absolute person that absolutely took this match and like really shone was Rocky Rodriguez. There were so many times that she was pulling strength in midfield, running that attack. There was that one attempt from like way out that was so close. So yeah, very exciting from her end. And yeah, that's my pick for the match.
Yeah, well, this time I have to agree with you and build on it. I can't choose anybody else. It was Rocky for me as well. Even in her press conference, she was saying that I felt really confident in the midfield, and we really saw that. I mean, when Kling put that set piece in and it hit Rocky's head and went in, it looked like a classic Horan header. Like it was well timed. It was well, her run, her jump, her everything. Abby in goal didn't even move. She just watched the ball fly behind her. So I think a great performance by Rocky, and it really shows how that midfield engine really runs any game of football, right? Because that's what she did. And obviously, the long range shot. Someone asked her about that in the press conference. She said, "I've taken those and converted those kind of shots before, so I'm not gonna like. I'm backing myself every time I take that shot." So credit to her, great player. A very valuable asset for Portland Thorns and for the league as a whole. I mean, just a great specimen. Yeah, a great footballer.
It was also symptomatic of what I was saying, which is that the little more quality in the midfield for the song that made the difference eventually. Yeah, great pick.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So great that we're in agreement for player of the match is Rocky Rodriguez, fantastic player. Yeah, let's move on to the third match again. I think apart from the first match, all matches have been high scoring, which is a bit just testament to how this competitive Challenge Cup is going to be. The first match seemed to be the exception of a 0-all because we have our third match here. North Carolina Courage versus Washington Spirit. It ended 3-2 to North Carolina Courage taking the win. Romel, your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think you see a whole bunch of very trademark Riley imprints on this match. He is famous for having said that it doesn't matter how many your opponents score, you have to try and outscore them. So this was such a Riley match in that way. And I think from what we saw in the match, this was a very young Spirit squad. Again, reeling from a few roster misses, due to the international call-ups, but they put on a great match. And I thought that even though this was a much weakened North Carolina Courage team, like we talked about in the first video, um, it really showed why they are head and shoulders above a whole bunch of teams in the league, because um, the Spirit did expose a whole bunch of weaknesses there, but at the end of it, it didn't matter. They knew what they had to do. They kept attacking, and I think Dibinia basically could have taken the game away from the Spirit just with a whole bunch of those misses from her. But yeah, eventually it came down to a tight result, but I think it was a fair result again. But yeah, excited to see what the Spirit can do against teams that are a little more perhaps in their league, going forward.
Yeah, fair assessment. I think you're right that Courage just shows how deep their squad can be, even while they're missing. Obviously, they're missing the American, Abby Dahlkemper, Sam Mewis, who have all now gone good for a bit. But the fact is that under that sort of big name, big personality layer. They have a very strong core that has been working and training every day with them. And that really shows, like, I mean, it showed in the match, a couple of days ago, because they obviously, again, Davinia was running the midfield, and they were a bit vulnerable, because you saw Washington get a really early goal. I think in the fourth or the fifth minute is when Yokoyama actually scored. Yeah, in the fourth minute there. But yeah, look, I think this match again was a good outing for both teams. They both, although one has come back with a win and one has come back with a loss, I think they both are going to take confidence from it, especially Washington Spirit having gone up early just shows them that they can do that, and they just need to find a way to sustain that pressure throughout. They went up early, and then it came 3-1 eventually. They managed to come back with a goal, so it shows them that they can still come back. So that fight is there, and that fight is like half the battle is won if you know that you can do it. Now it's just a question of executing your plans. So overall, I think a very entertaining game. Um, Courage being courage, but Washington Spirit really leveling up, and they're doing it at the right time, because they have obviously an intense Challenge Cup and then a massive season ahead. So it's important that they do that now. So yeah, I think for me as well, similar to what you said, it was just a fair result. As I mean, at the end of the day, a fair result. I think now 3 matches in a row, we've seen that the team that's played a little bit better has come out on top. But yeah, a player in specific for you who did well.
I mean, no doubt about it. Has to be the beat, because she was all over and so dangerous coming out of the midfield into attacking positions, and more than attacking, getting into actual goal scoring dangerous situations. So yeah, I think Dabinia just did it all, and whatever uh, you know the courage had to do to sort of pull apart this defense. Most of it was all thanks to the work that Dabinia put in. So yeah, that was my pick.
Yeah, no, it has to be the same, because you could see that Davina is just waiting and itching to play, because it's been a long off season for her as well. And just Davina on an NWSL field is just magic. It's butter on toast. I don't know how. It's a beautiful combination, because um, she doesn't have a height advantage, so she really has to maneuver with her feet and be very clever and quick. And if people go back and watch the highlights, they'll even see, I think in the build up of the first goal, she had this really beautiful chip over the defender, and it landed at Jess McDonald's feet, I think. And that was just testament to the magic that Dabinia can create on the field. And how valuable again she is. We mentioned Rocky Rodriguez for the Portland Thorns in that midfield, Dabinia here for the courage in the midfield. It's just about like revolving your team around those key players who can create chances like Dabinia has. So yeah, for me as well, Davinia for this match. I feel like we'll be talking about her quite often every time Courage come up on the field. We mentioned her in the preview as well. She's living up to all our expectations as well. So that's good on Davinia. All right, so we've covered 3 out of 4 matches on this opening weekend of the NWSL Challenge Cup. Now we have the fourth match, and we have a debutant, the Racing Louisville team, playing Orlando Pride. Orlando Pride, obviously, again, these two teams, in fact, both playing the Challenge Cup for the first time. And a very high scoring game, you could say. It was very intense. Obviously, we've spoken about celebration with the lights and the jerseys, but let's hear about the football now. Romel, take it away.
Yeah, I think this just seemed to be a really exciting match. And what was more exciting is the fact that I think Holly has uh, probably found a sweet spot in terms of tactics that work within the American system, but take on from a lot of European and Latin American teams, is that they build up and they get to the halfway, and then from the halfway point is where they look for this one each of a ball that will sort of thread through the defense and let in their forward in on goal. So I think it seems to be the way that he's setting up the team, and we saw so many dangerous attacking moments. I mean, Nagasato had the opportunity to actually run away with 2 goals in quick succession to begin with, and that didn't nearly come off. But eventually, it did, and again, such amazing fight from a team that's new to the league to try and keep at it even till the last moment and eventually get that goal to tie the game. I think that has to be like another game that was really up there along with the Portland Thorns and KC match, as true entertainment for the weekend. Yeah, your
Yeah, and
thoughts?
I'm wondering, Orlando Pride are back to this, oh my God, what, scratching their heads. What do we have to do to get a win kind of situation? Because if you are up on the 87th minute, you need to see the game out. There's no doubt about it. You have to see the game out, otherwise you're just not going to do well in the league. I think that's just a fact. And Racing Louisville took that opportunity, grabbed it with both hands. I guess they were the new and fearless team. They had no expectations, no sort of fears of having played Orlando Pride before or anything. So they really fought it out till the very last second, and credit to them. I mean, that fight again is what we talk about. It's just that's half the game won right there. And to see them come back with the entire celebration at Lynn Family Stadium, the lights and the jerseys, and I think it was absolutely fantastic to see them fight. 90 plus 3 is when they got that equalizer, and that stat itself just shows you that this team is here to stay. This team is here to fight. You mentioned Christy Hawley getting something right. He definitely has, because Mark Skinner again is just wondering, going back to the drawing board and saying, what can we do different? Because if a new entrant into the league is beating us like this, or at least stealing points from us like this, we're going to be in trouble when it comes to playing Portland Thorn. We're going to be in trouble when it comes to playing North Carolina Courage, or whoever else it might be. So this game again was a very, very good game. I think you mentioned Yuki Nagasato obviously getting big breaks on consecutive occasions. We mentioned her in the preview. I mean, at least I thought of her more as a creator role, but to see her receive the ball at the end and almost get a couple of goals, good sign as well. Hopefully she can convert them next time around, and we can have Yuki on the scoreboard as well. That'll be really nice. But yeah, the game ended 2-2. I think it was just a fantastic game to watch. People, you should definitely go back and watch the highlights of this match. If not for the celebration, then just to watch the football. I think that was amazing. Romel, take your pick on the player of the match.
I think again there wasn't really one player that stood out amongst both teams, and that's also I think down to the fact that they weren't playing. I mean, this was obviously the first match that they were playing in like a professional setup, and we saw a whole bunch of rust all over the place. But yes, I think if I have to take a player, then it would have to be Nagasato, because I think what she did was set the tone. She was also really putting into play the tactics that they had on hand. And I think even though she wasn't on the score sheet, I think she had a big hand to play in terms of why this team was playing so well, especially in terms of probably sharing a whole bunch of tips on how to get the passing game going. So I think that has to be my standout here, but just by a bit.
Yeah, no, Yuki Nagasato is always a good pick when she's on the field. She's definitely up to something. For me, I'm going to pick someone from the Orlando Pride who just stood out to me. I didn't get to watch the entire game, so I watched highlights and extended highlights and everything I could. Megan Doughty-Howard, the midfielder of Orlando Pride. She really bossed the midfield in a way that I haven't seen before from Orlando Pride, especially because she's been a name that's been there in the NWSL. You constantly hear commentators saying Howard, or she gets the ball, Howard has passed the ball. You don't really see Howard on the field. You don't know what's happening. You just know that she's existing there. But she really commanded her own presence in that match. She even, I think, was the reason that Abigail Kim got that goal in the 87th minute. She put a good through ball behind the back line, and Abigail with a first time shot over the goalkeeper got the ball in. So I think she had very clear cut presence on the field not today, a couple of days ago, Megan Doughty-Howard. And for that reason, I feel like I would just like to mention her here that she was probably my player of the match. They didn't get a win. they obviously blew a lead that they could have easily, taken as a win, which would have been a really good confidence booster for Orlando Pride. They would have felt like, oh, we're this rejuvenated, renewed team that's come back and taken a point, taken 3 points, in fact, but unfortunately that didn't take place. But yeah, she would be my pick of the match just because of the way she bossed the midfield, and we're usually just like recognizing midfielders who are doing well. So it would be Megan for me.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Second was again very close to the top for me. The reason that maybe Nagasato made it a little higher on the list was just like I said. I think what Holly has done with this team is that I think they've taken a great bunch of notes from Japanese teams passing game, and I think that's what we saw translate into their attacking features as well. And I think for me, it was a little bit more than what we saw on the field as well. But yeah, I definitely agree. I think Megan Howard had like a fabulous game, especially with highlights.
Right. So it seems like it's been a weekend of the midfielders doing their thing, either setting up goals or getting a few goals themselves. So 4 matches done and dusted. Week 1 of the NWSL Challenge Cup is over. It's underway, and we're going to have, I think, 3 more weeks of Challenge Cup action before the championship match. So before we wrap this up, we're going to get our goal of the week. Just a goal that we thought that just stood out to us. And obviously feel free to put your goal of the week in the comments and interact with us on Twitter and Instagram to let us know which goal you enjoyed the most. But Romel, before we wrap up, why don't you tell us your goal of the week?
I think there were a whole bunch of them that really stood out, but I think 2 of them that were closest in my book was Merit's goal and that Rodman goal. And I think to take it all, it has to be the Rodman goal. That first touch, over a shoulder, to bring it down, get it in step with what she was doing, and the confidence to slot it past the goalkeeper. Oh my God, that has to be the highlight.
And has Trinity Rodman, just remind me, has she gone pro after high school?
Yes, she has.
Wow,
The
what an
youngest
entry.
player, plus I think the youngest player to score in the NWSL at home.
Wow. No, great pick. That was on my list as well. Trinity Rodman with that first touch. And yeah, although we say in hindsight, it didn't really matter, but that goal really showed Washington's spirit that we have fight, we can come back. And to do it the way that she did, that was very special. So yeah, I think my goal of the week, you've already mentioned Merit Matthias. I have to just give that goal another quick mention, because I love a good weighted chip, because the more you wait, the more it means that, hey, I'm in control of this ball and I'm taking my time because I know that I can do this. And usually a forward would just get a ball and zoom and put it back, just take a shot wherever they can. But I love the fact that Merit waited. The defender was coming behind her, but she waited, she looked up, she looked back down, and she chipped it over the goalkeeper. That was a really special goal. So I think for me, that was goal of the week. Interesting that both our goals have come from the Courage and Washington fixture. I think that's a sign to anyone listening to go rewatch those highlights. That was a pretty special game as well. But yeah, any last thoughts from her before we wrap up?
No, I'm just waiting for the rain to get on the pitch. So that happened this weekend. So yeah, hopefully we'll have a lot more stories to either talk about once we get back to this.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. So with that, we wrap up this week 1 rewind of the NWSL Challenge Cup of 2021. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for listening. Any thoughts you have, do share them in the comments or follow us on Twitter at SheTalksBall. We're waiting to hear from you and your thoughts on the Challenge Cup. And we'll see you after week 2's matches.
See you.